Welcome na Mauri. This is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up.
So when I come back from doing stories like that, I'm particularly traumatised from that.
We talk to One News Pacific correspondent Barbara Dreaver about her new book. Also,
Number 1 is partnering with New Zealand, Samoa, Cook Islands, and Niue.
Donald Trump's choice for top diplomat to Aotearoa is one step closer to assuming office. And from Otara to Las Vegas, a new Pacific heavyweight boxer looks to make his mark in the ring. Spanning over 3 decades of reporting from the region, One News Pacific correspondent Barbara Dreaver has released her new memoir, Be Brave. From natural disasters to coups, pandemics and deaths, the Kiribati-born journalist has seen and covered it all. I spoke to Barbara Dreaver and began by asking her how she found the time to write her book on top of her busy day job.
Well, that's a really good question. I really didn't. I didn't manage my work private life very well, and it would turn out that I'd work full-time and then I'd go home, work into the night. I'd work every weekend. I even went on holiday, took my laptop with me. And every so often my poor publisher at our press, Mary Varnum, she'd write to me and she'd send me a text saying, I know you're busy. I've seen you on TV in Vanuatu in the earthquake, so I'm assuming I'm not going to get this in time for... So they were pretty patient with me, but it did take about a year in my just part-time writing, yeah.
Where did the idea to write a book come from anyway?
It was more that, we live in such turbulent times at the moment, and I really wanted people to see the Pacific through my eyes, like the joy of it, the challenges, it's tough, the ugly, but also the beautiful. And the Pacific is so important to the world. It's important to New Zealand and Australia. And I thought if I show it, like the real stories behind, and a lot of them, what happens behind the scenes, that it just might provide, share that joy really of the Pacific with people. I'm really concerned about the way the region is going at the moment, and I think there's volatile times ahead. And so I really decided some time ago that I wanted to record it and record, for my family as well. And yeah,
as you say, volatile times ahead in the Pacific. I read the book and I was deeply inspired by it. A few times you have shared in your pages that you became part of the news. Can you talk me through the time when you were detained in Fiji? What goes into the framing of that story?
It's not ideal when a journalist becomes the news. That is not what we aspire to be. I had someone from MFAT say to me, but it made you famous. And I'm like, no, it was unpleasant, and it's not why we do what we do. Yes, that's right. I was covering the coup in Fiji, the military regime, for a couple of years after. So 2006 was the coup. And in 2008, we knew that they were really clamping down on local media. They were censoring. They'd got draconian laws in place. So we knew it was a matter of time before they targeted journalists who go there regularly. And they didn't like me because I go to grassroots and I know Fiji pretty well. And so I knew it was just a matter of time. So when we went in, sure enough, I got detained and put into a detention centre, and it was pretty horrible during the night. I'd got a call from my friends at Fiji TV, and they'd said, we've heard that, just be prepared. They might come for you tonight, and this is what's been said. And so I got myself ready. And I was anxious because I knew people had been tortured, and women in particular had been targeted. And so I wondered what might happen to me. So I got myself mentally strong, and I started, I acknowledge that it sounds weird and stupid, but, I practiced taking off my clothes, putting them back on, so that if anything came to it, I could look at these guys in the eye and just confront it and be strong. And it did help me as well, that sort of rote thing, and putting my inhaler in my pants and things like that, because I'd heard we'd all heard stories about what was happening to especially the local people who were in opposition to the military regime.
When you came back to New Zealand, what kept you going? I mean, did you ever think to yourself when you came back from Fiji, oh, is this even worth putting my life at risk?
No. In fact, the opposite, because I knew that because I'd been targeted in this way, that means that I'm doing my job. So when you get targeted as a journalist, like I did in Nauru, when I got taken into the police station and detained there, when I got, was in the hostage camp in 2000 for the George Speight coup, you come out stronger, because I always think if I'm being targeted, that means that I'm doing my job, and just because they don't like it and they want to put a stop to it, that's a good thing, I think.
And that's why the book is called Be Brave.
Yeah, well, it's funny because sometimes I don't feel that brave. And that is actually something that I repeat to myself, be brave, be brave, be brave, when I'm in a tough time. But it's also when young ones say to me, well, what do you need? What qualities do you need to be a good journalist? And I'll say, well, you need to report without fear or favour, and you need to be brave. And I especially think that's true of Pacific journalists, especially journalists working in the region. There's tough times, and I get to walk away from situations they don't. Right. And so really they're the people who I admire the most.
Obviously, all your stories, we get the sense of your courage in them, but is there a particular story that still lingers in your mind?
I think, for me, children and the abuse of children, when children are hurt or dying, that's my Achilles heel. That is the thing that really upsets me, and it holds on, it grips my heart. And so when I come back from doing stories like that, I'm particularly traumatised from that. And so, yes, and probably the measles epidemic, when I saw dead and dying children, and just dealing over the years with, just recently when I was in Samoa looking at the meth trafficking and exposing that, and came across how some parents are dropping their children off to swapping their children for meth, and their children are being abused. And I got some level of detail which is absolutely not in the book, and I will never share that with anyone except the person I saw professionally when I came back, because it's just so awful. And for me, that is far worse than anything that I go through myself. And it's something I continually struggle with.
Right. What are 3 tips then would you give to up-and-coming journalists or storytellers, especially when it comes to reporting on traumatic events?
I think the first thing is have a support team around you. So whether it's at work or people who you really trust. So I have 4 people actually. One of them works at Radio New Zealand, who I go to for advice, and I go to them because I trust them, and I know they always have my best interests at heart. And they're people, so that really helps. That would be the first tip. Make sure you have good people around you. Second is, do not ever read the comments on social media. That's where good people, that's where bad people write. It's a terrible thing. And the third thing is, when people say to you as a Pacific journalist, you're not being culturally aware. We know what's culturally aware. We do. And quite often people in power use it as a means of stopping you reporting. So you have to be really aware of the boundaries on that. And so those would be the 3 tips that I would give.
And finally, Barbara, is this book the signal of you closing a particular chapter in your life? What's next for you?
Well, not yet, not that I know of, but we're in an industry that's really changing rapidly and evolving rapidly, which is really exciting. We're going into the digi age, but also we're going into, I just think that journalism becomes a lot more important. So I think, it was just another, I always think of my career as a lot of, you're building a house and every building block that you put in is a good foundation. So this is another foundation, building block in my foundation.
Awesome. US President Donald Trump's choice for top diplomat to Aotearoa is one step closer to assuming office, more than a year after he was first announced. Billionaire businessman Jared Novelli is the president's nominee to be US ambassador to New Zealand, Niue, the Cook Islands and Samoa. He spoke to the US Senate Foreign Relations Committee on Friday. Kaya Selby tuned in.
From sports team owner to South Pacific diplomacy, Jared Novelli says he has a 3-point plan for the job.
Number 1 is partnering with New Zealand, Samoa, Cook Islands, and Niue to promote a free and open Pacific. Number 2 is expanding our defense partnership with New Zealand. And number 3 is promoting opportunities for U.S. business entities.
He says the US has few better partners than New Zealand, and that defence will be a key priority for him as China's presence in the region persists. Speaking to senators, he called out China for missile tests in the Tasman Sea a year ago.
Few countries understand the darkening security environment in the Pacific better than New Zealand. Last February, China conducted live-fire exercises in the Tasman Sea. The exercises led to flight diversions and represented an example of alarming, even destabilizing behavior in the Pacific.
Mr. Novelli says for every US business in the Pacific, they have a friend in Wellington. Key to his commercial ambitions for the region is the critical mineral space in the Cook Islands. He says he would expand collaboration with local authorities for responsible extraction.
The Cooks have opened up their EEZ, expanding from their traditional industry base of tourism to exploitation of their minerals. I see that as an extreme opportunity for the U.S. to be able to play its part.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration have withdrawn the US ambassadors for almost every other country in the region. Their replacements have yet to be seen.
Kiwi Samoan heavyweight boxer Wila Ma'u has officially signed with Zuva Boxing, where he joins fellow Samoan-Australian IBF Cruiserweight World Champion Jai Opitaya. Hailing from Otara, Ma'u is training in Las Vegas in preparation for his first fight under the new promoter. I spoke to Wila Ma'u, who was at the Meta Apex Arena in support of Opitaya just minutes before he took to the ring.
For what my manager and my trainer over here told me, it was they like entertaining fighters. So more on the side of fighters that can entertain and provide the knockout. And that's what I feel that I have. It's one of my assets is being a heavyweight and also having that punch that can put people away. So I feel it was, that kind of thing that caught their eye. Yeah.
Tell me a bit about your journey. What inspired you to take up boxing?
What inspired me was I come from a boxing family. My uncles, my great uncles, my father, they all boxed growing up in Samoa. And one of my uncles, he trained alongside Jimmy Fonda. My father didn't take it up, but he always taught us as youngins. And then it wasn't until later, as in my early 20s, I decided to give it a go. And then later into late 20s, I decided to go all in, leave my job. And yeah, it's been good so far.
Since turning professional, do you feel like you're carrying on a family legacy?
Yeah, definitely. With this sport, especially being here in the States where Las Vegas is and was, I still feel is the mecca of boxing. It's a good way to get my family name out there. Everything I do is for my family, myself, family, and God.
What's it like being signed to the same promotion as Jai Opitaya? Do you get to train with him?
Yeah, I had 5 sparring sessions with him so far, just helping him out for this fight, which has been a blessing because, to share the ring with world-class champion, getting some world-class experience, second to none. So it's an amazing feeling, and just helps myself and my belief in myself.
Awesome. And how are preparations coming along for your next fight?
I'm training every day except for Sunday. That's rest day, church day. At the moment, it's been a bit slow. We haven't got a date yet for our next fight. Still sorting out in the background behind the scenes. So I'm just staying ready as close as I can to being fight fit. Don't want to peak too early.
What other goals have you set for yourself this year?
I am just taking it day by day. I don't want to be thinking too ahead of myself. I mean, obviously the end goal is to get to the top. I'm just taking it from day by day.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, soifua.